Hey everybody, it's Dami and Jamie from Hometown History, and we're bringing you a 5-minute deep dive into the Four Chaplains, and this is a promo for what you're going to see on Wednesday, February 1st, in person here at Temple Beth Israel. We're going to be talking about the main bar that night, so that's going to be about 30 minutes, but today we want to bring you a little 5 to less than
a little
10
bit
minute.
longer.
Yeah. So this episode is about Rabbi Alexander Goode, a World War II hero, and I'm going to go over our agenda. So Rabbi Goode's decision to join the war, his childhood, the sinking of the USAT Dorchester, and the impact on his family.
Tonight's episode is a little bit different from what you'll see on Wednesday because this is going more into Rabbi Goode and his life, where on Wednesday we'll tell the more complete history of World War II and the USS Dorchester.
Right. And if you know us, you know we love takeaways.
Here's a lesson learned.
Number 1, the Four Chaplains gave the ultimate sacrifice, showing interfaith cooperation and selfless service. Number 2, we want to continue telling the story of courage for generations to come and pass it along. And number 3, ask yourself, are you willing to give away your life jacket? Everything we're going to talk about, almost everything, comes from In the Thick of the Fight by Jim McClure, our third partner who sometimes makes an appearance.
We should almost have a Where's Waldo? Can you
Where's
spot the episodes
Jim?
with Jim McClure?
You get extra credit if you spot Jim in one of our videos.
So let's get into Rabbi Goode. So he was sitting in his living room. Here's a picture of him when we were attacked for Pearl Harbor in 1941. He had been in New York for about 4 years, and he had just resigned, though, from his position at the Temple Beth Israel because his thoughts went to serving his country. He thought, maybe I'll go into the military and become a chaplain. His wife was not very happy with his thoughts. She said, "The night of Pearl Harbor, I nearly fell apart. Alex, the great patriot that he was, wanted to enlist immediately. I just looked at him and didn't say a word." Now, this was in 1941, and Rabbi Goode was born in 1911, so he was 31 years old. Yep. Making him pretty young, in my opinion. I'm 32, so I'm thinking...
You're still young.
Someone my age going and doing this is pretty impressive.
Right, and from his earliest days, he planned on following in his father's footsteps to become a rabbi. He went to high school in Washington, D.C., where he excelled as a student athlete, and he earned his B.A. from the University of Cincinnati, followed by a degree from the Hebrew Union College in the 1930s.
Super educated.
Right, and because of the Great Depression, he was basically penniless during his education, and he really thought about quitting and giving up his dream to become a rabbi, but he believed that God was telling him that this was the plan, that he had to pursue religious vocation. So in 1935, he married his childhood sweetheart, Teresa, and she was the daughter of a rabbi, and they soon moved to Temple Beth Israel Synagogue in New York, which is where we're at today.
Yeah, and here is a picture of the original location, which is in downtown New York. The picture on the left has Rabbi Goode in the center. So for much of his youth, he served in the National Guard, so he had this history of service,
right,
even from when he was a young man. And so when Pearl Harbor forced Americans into the war, Rabbi Goode received news that by midsummer, he would serve as first lieutenant in the Army Air Force. He immediately put in to go overseas, and he was summoned to the Harvard Chaplain School.
In January of 1943, Rabbi Goode met Teresa for 3 days in New York and close to where he was born in Brooklyn. And he told her of his impending departure to Greenland, and that was home of 2 American air bases. And they said their goodbyes for the last time that day. Teresa said, "It was a difficult goodbye, and I looked at him through the window of the train. I was crying, and he was crying, and I knew I would never see him again. I just felt it in my heart." Goode then wrote to Teresa, "Don't worry, I'll be coming back much sooner than you think."
Trying to console his wife.
I know, it's
giving
so
her
sad.
reassurance.
Yeah.
Not only was he going through his own stuff, but now he's trying to support his wife as well.
Right, yeah, he was very brave.
Yep. So Rabbi Goode accompanied 3 other chaplains on the USAT Dorchester. Here's a picture of them. So we've got George Langsing Fox, he was a Methodist, Clark Poling, who was Dutch Reformed, and then Washington, who was Roman Catholic. Here's what happened to the USAT Dorchester. So it was attacked by a German U-boat on February 3rd, 1943. So that's coming up the 80th anniversary while it was in the North Atlantic. Now, these men are remembered as heroes. There is a man named Sergeant Michael Parrish who remembers witnessing one of these heroic acts performed by Rabbi Goode. He said that he remembers seeing Goode remove his life jacket and kneel beside a man with an injured shoulder. He unlaced his own shoes, placed the man's good arm through the life jacket's armhole, and then tied the other side of the life jacket around the injured shoulder with the lace. Within 22 minutes, the ship was underwater.
And as the ship started sinking, on the deck they started praying in English, Hebrew, and Latin. James Eardley is credited as the last man to see the chaplains alive. And he's quoted as saying, "I was on a life raft, and when the ship rolled over, that's when I saw the four chaplains who had climbed up on the keel. And they were standing arm in arm, and then she's nose down and they slid off into the water. 1/3 of the crew survived."
Including the men that you see on the screen. They died and they gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country.
Right.
So tonight we're trying to remember that and continue telling that story. So Teresa Goode, when this was happening, she was at home. She was staying with her sister in Washington, D.C. She woke with a start at 1:35 a.m. This was just 15 minutes after the Dorchester had gone down. She said to her sister, "It was as if someone had dropped me in ice water and I was just frozen. It seemed to me that the whole room had become illuminated, and Alex's picture on the dresser just seemed to glow. I felt as if he was trying to reach me. I was just so frightened."
And then the Army soon notified her that her husband was missing.
Yes, thank you. It didn't take long.
Yeah, and she said to a reporter, quote, "I have not given up hope for his return to me. I can't believe that he is dead and will not return." She pointed out that her husband was young and a good swimmer, and she said there are many possibilities that he was saved, and I will not give up until I've established that he is gone forever. But
She had to maintain that hope.
I know, and unfortunately in March, the Army ended up sending official word that Rabbi Goode had been lost.
Yeah, died. Yep. So back home, after VJ Day, which stands for Victory in Japan Day, in 1945, York held an interfaith religious service at the York Fairgrounds, and 7,000 people attended.
It's amazing.
Joyous occasion. There was an address that we wanted to quote. It is up here on the screen for you. So this was from 1945. They said, "The rights of Protestants, Catholics, and Jews, of white men and Negroes alike, to enjoy the democracy for which all of them have here paid the price." Today, there is a school in New York City School District that bears Goode's name and also honors the Four Chaplain. And if you've been downtown, you've seen this mural. This is at 135 West Market Street. Now, what happened to Goode's wife? So Teresa later remarried, and then she died in 2004. Goode and Teresa had a child. Her name was Rosaline, and then she died in 1999.
Oh, that's very sad. A lot of sadness in that family,
Yeah, there is.
unfortunately.
Yep.
So the takeaways, what we wanted you to learn tonight. So Four Chaplains gave the ultimate sacrifice, showing interfaith cooperation and selfless service 80 years ago on February 3rd. Number 2, we want to continue telling the story of courage for generations to come and pass it along to others.
Keep telling the story. Share with people. I had not known about this story until a couple of months ago when Jim McClure and Dami said, "Hey, we should do this story." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And then as we started doing our research, we realized just how powerful this story was, and I was kind of ashamed I'd never heard of it.
Right, and someone that heroic right here in New York.
Right here in New York.
And then our last takeaway, number 3, do you get involved in situations? You need to ask yourself, are you willing to give up your life jacket?
We don't want to compare ourselves to soldiers that gave the ultimate sacrifice for others in World War II, but we can apply their lessons of serving others and putting others before ourselves. So even if it's small things like stopping and helping a stranded motorist, or if you see a child that's on the street that might need help, or whatever, this was just a small reminder to pay it forward and be kind to others.
Right. Now, don't forget that our main bar episode is going to happen on February 1st at 6 p.m. You can learn more about it on Retro York or on Preserving the History of Newburytown on Facebook, because we're going to have this right here at Temple Beth Israel in York, and it's going to be in person.
In person. And also, if you haven't noticed, you can't see it here, I am 6 months pregnant, and so this is one of our last episodes in person. So this is the time to show up and see this beautiful synagogue that we're in tonight. All right, thanks everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.